Hello, Internet. You are not watching this. And the reason you are not watching this is because there's 10,000 million other reviews of Johnnie Walker Blue Label on the YouTubes. And my little video here is not going to sort of break through the mass of other videos in order to reach your consciousness. Nevertheless, I just had a few minutes to throw something together, and I thought it would be fun to do this for the nerds who subscribe and who might be curious as to what I might think of something like this. I tried Blue Label once about a decade ago. I never took any notes. It was just someone had bought a bottle and I got a glass of it, and I remember nothing about it. So I thought it would be fun. I saw it in a little sample box here, little tiny cool box with a little tiny cool sample bottle. And I figured it would be worth the little splurge they were asking for to reacquaint myself with this standard of standards. So Johnnie Walker, arguably the most famous Scotch brand on the planet still, even though the blends are sort of moving down in the world. And Blue Label, arguably the most famous of the Johnnie Walkers. This has always been the sort of big premium thing that you buy, dad or granddad for Christmas or his birthday or whatever. Now, so it's composed of, it is a blend. So there's a little bit of grain whiskey in there, but this is mostly known for having older malts and being very premium. So now I have had this bottle open for about an hour or so it's had a little time to breathe. And let's dive in. I haven't made any notes. This is we're just gonna go off the cuff here. I'm not gonna add any water either because my last experience with Johnnie Walker, I added a few drops of water and that was a mistake. So I'm not gonna do that again. This is bottled at 40%. No batch number, obviously, but presumably this came out in 2019, 2020, somewhere in there. This one batch. All right, what do we got? On the nose, it smells very malty. I'm not getting a whole lot of grain notes here. I would think this is, by far majority malt whiskey. I'm getting a ton of refill sherry casks. I don't think there's a whole lot of fresh sherry in this. But a lot of those sort of, second, third fill kinds of casks. I'm getting lots of orange. Orange peel more so than the juice or the pulp. Cider apple is in there, definitely. There's this kind of sort of general sense of like old wood, like old dusty attic kind of comes through pretty strongly. Freshly ground pepper, definitely. There's a little bit of like a waxy characteristic, something, and I would expect there's a dose of Kleinlich in here. Hard to pick out the individual pieces, but there's a little sense of like a minerally kind of rocky waxiness. So almost as if you sort of dripped a bunch of candle wax all over some rock dust or that kind of thing. That's kind of it. There's some more fruity notes in there. A little bit of sort of black tea, Assam tea maybe. A little bit of a kind of a mango skin kind of thing. Maybe just a hint towards citrus. Well, I mean, there's already the orange in there, so I guess that fills the citrus role already. I mean, it's a nice nose. This is a very pleasant nose. You have to bear in mind the price of this stuff at retail, but no complaints. This is not by any means a bad or offensive nose. On the palate, pretty good palate, actually. Pleasant. Oh, develops rather nicely. So you can tell there's old stocks in here. It's actually pushing pretty far back in my mouth. Normally, so with younger whiskeys, and I've talked about this before, or younger spirits in general, that haven't spent a whole lot of time in wood, but even if there's been, a ton of wood added really quickly, most of the action tends to be in the front of my mouth. When you start getting older, it starts to push back a little bit. So that being said, it does feel a little bit thin and fragile and clipped. The finish is holding on nicely. It's got good depth penetration, whatever you want to call it, but it does feel a little like it's kind of falling apart in my mouth a little bit. Try it one more time. Yeah. Orange peel, blood orange peel also, both navel and blood orange both. Little wax again, that sort of minerally note again. And then there's the malt there, the kind of a malted milk ball kind of sort of note, and then like the dusty attic thing, the old wood, the black tea, that's definitely all there. So it kind of follows on from the nose. No peat, obviously. This is meant to be, smooth. I mean, this really isn't bad, but I mean, okay, there's a lot of black pepper on this too, which I like. Sort of intermingled with the tea notes. Oh, there's a nice kind of menthol-y sort of note on the finish, which is kind of cool. A little cooling menthol action going on there. It is kind of, the finish is slightly cardboardy now that I think about it. Just a little bit of cardboard, not too bad. And there's a little bit of a bubblegummy note right in the mid palate, which might be from the grain whiskey, I'm not sure. It's nice. The problem with this is, is this like, I don't even know how much this costs these days, $200-ish, nice, or $20 for a 50 milliliter sample, nice. Here is the problem with this. This is a bottle of Glengoyne 10-year-old. Here's a glass I poured earlier. Also has heavy notes of refill, sort of sherry cask. So you're getting orange, you're getting cider apple, black pepper, a certain minerality, not as waxy. It definitely smells younger and fresher, but it's doing a good impression, honestly. And on the palate, kind of the same story, follows on. Orangey, appley, minerality. Doesn't have the sort of depth or penetration or the overt woodiness of the Blue Label, but it's also a little bit rounder, a little bit fresher. So it's a little bit chutes and ladders between these two. I scored this 84 points last year. I would give it that same score again, and I would give the Blue Label the same score. Honestly, it's just built in a very similar kind of way. It's a nice whiskey. The 40% is crippling it a little bit, but not too badly. Yeah, good. We're going clear. It's a good whiskey. The problem is it's not a great whiskey, and for the price they're asking for, it really needs to be a great whiskey. So yeah, 84 points. I suppose no one's going to be disappointed in this, but for the money you can do so much better. I mean, when there's a $40 malt that is as good as your sort of big premium, awesome blend, you're running into problems, right? Johnnie Walker and particularly Blue Label feels like a brand that desperately needs to reinvent itself. This may have been fine 10, 15 years ago, back, when everyone was chasing after, I don't know, Johnnie Walker Blue Label for other things, stuff, collectible stuff in fancy boxes, that just happened to be bottled at 40% and, you know, hinted at being old, but never actually gave you an age statement. There was a lot of that in the brandy world, and a lot of that going on in the rum world. And now in the world where, you know, any premium whiskey, any malt, bourbon, whatever you want, is bottled at minimum some, you know, 43, 45%. Like this is not acceptable anymore. What I would humbly suggest the Johnnie Walker folks is just revamp this thing. I mean, behind this is basically a good recipe. This is pretty solid. Just up the strength, you know, and I don't know, play around with it a little. There's room to play with the basic core strengths of this, and you know, you don't necessarily need to make it a value. This is never going to be a great value play, but you can make it, you know, just more competitive as a whiskey, as a spirit. I mean, times have moved on. Honestly, you got to move with them, guys. And that's kind of what I got for this. 84 points. It's fine. It should be better for what's you can tell there's good stuff going into this, but it's just being, you know, the kind of overproduction and the bottling strength is just crushing. I mean, let's talk about bottling. Like if you go back to the 80s, you can find Johnnie Walkers bottled at at 43.2 odd percent. That was normal back then. And at some point, you know, we just pulled it back to 40, and it's time to go back to the old times, guys. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope this was informative, and cheers.